Klaxon, Ries, Blaj Blanarnik, Karnik.
I'm back, and this week I have some very good facts about the Star Trek Next Generation classic episode, The Big Goodbye. During this episode, the Enterprise is meeting with the insect-like race, the Harada, who are very particular. They're very, very particular about the way that they're spoken to and greeted, but of course things go wrong. Now, the original plan for the episode was that there wouldn't actually be a holodeck, but instead there'd be a special booth in the wall of the starship whereby it makes holographic characters that would only last for 12 hours. And I do believe the original plan was for them to create some 20s or 30s mobsters that would try and take over the ship, but would only last for 12 hours and then degrade into nothing. Okay, another fact. During the making of this episode, actor Brent Spiner kept humming, and that actually caused lots of the scenes to need extra takes than they originally did, because Captain Picard would be talking, somebody else would be talking, and in the background, of course, you'd hear Brent Spiner humming, because he'd obviously heard a catchy tune at some point during that day, and he just couldn't get it out of his head, and he just kept humming. Very annoying, I imagine. Now, this is the first of 18 holodeck-based episodes in Star Trek Next Generation. Gene Roddenberry was actually against the idea of holodecks because he insisted that everything in Star Trek is real. Now, this actually shows that after his death during Star Trek Next Generation, it actually ramped up the amount of holodeck episodes. So in these early days, there isn't so many, but as the series goes on, series 5, 6, 7, there's plenty of holodeck episodes.
Very funny, Dick. What'd you do, lose another bet?
Now, the antagonist of the episode, who is Cyrus Redblock. Well, he's the antagonist in the holodeck world. Cyrus Redblock was named after the Paramount Studio canteen, which from above looks like a red block because it's made out of red bricks. Now, if you happen to be flying over by helicopter or something similar, you would notice that there is indeed just the one red block building. Anyhow, that's why the character is called Cyrus Redblock. During the first scene, with Picard as Dixon Hill in the episode, when Dixon is talking to the lady, you can see that he's actually drooling from the corner of his mouth. Now, this isn't actually any sort of perversion. It's because Patrick Stewart had been at the dentist that morning before filming and had a numb mouth, so he was unable to control the drool in his mouth. So if you look closely, you can see that he's actually dribbling during the scene. Now, when the effects department got the okay to produce 2 full-size insectoid creatures, they went all out. They spent nearly $1 million on highly detailed animatronic creatures, but when they were seen by the producers, when the finished product of the creatures were seen by the producers, unfortunately the creatures were abandoned by the team for being too scary, so they weren't actually used on screen. In the end, all we did was hear the sound of the Haradan people talking. We didn't actually see these disgracefully scary figures that they've made. Hopefully they weren't wasted and they used them for a horror film or something. I've got no information about that though. Now, not only does Picard, Data and Dr. Crusher enter the holodeck, so does ship fiction expert Lamchop Whalen. Now, it's very convenient, of course, that the ship has a fiction expert, but I guess when you've got over 1,000 people on board and everybody's an expert for something, hopefully, one of them will be a fiction expert. Now, Lamchop Whalen will actually be the red shirt of the episode. While in the holodeck world of the 1930s, Lamchop reportedly and repeatedly comes into peril, unable to help himself at all without Captain Picard's help. At one point he's nearly hit by a car, another point he's held up with a gun. He just can't stay out of trouble without the other's help.
When I looked down into the street, I actually saw automobiles.
That's probably why Lamchop wasn't actually ever used again, although I quite liked his character. Now, Dixon Hill is a suspect of the police in this episode because the police pull him over in the street during the holodeck adventure, and they say that they need to take him downtown to the station because his business card is found in the purse of a murdered lady, Jessica Bradley. Now, this isn't actually evidence of a crime at all. Having found a business card in a purse is not evidence of anything, although these police are pretty much making out that he's under arrest for murder because his business card will be found, which is ridiculous. It shows exactly how much pre-war America really was silly. Let's hope we don't end up being thrown back in time. We'd all be arrested for having a sandwich or something silly, wouldn't we? Now in Holodeck, Dr. Crusher is seen wearing a pearl necklace. These were actually on loan from Princess Diana, who was visiting Paramount Studios that day and insisted on the use of her pearls in one of her favourite shows. Right, another fact that I dragged up about this episode. A lot of the characters in the Holodeck are seen smoking. Obviously that's the thing of the time because it was the 1930s. But to protect the actors from smoke damage, Patrick Stewart, etc., small filters were fitted inside their noses, giving them a flared nostril look from time to time. If you have a look while watching this episode, you might see that some of the people look like they've got strange expressions. That's not really true. It's just because they've got these nose filters in. It's a small price to pay to be protected from deadly cigarette exhaust. Now, Patrick Stewart in this episode, as the character of Dixon Hill, is seen wearing a hat nearly all the time while he's in the Holodeck. But actually, Patrick Stewart was against Dixon Hill wearing a hat, as he said that Captain Picard would look like he's embarrassed to be bald if he's seen covering it up, and he was insistent that the character of Dixon Hill was to not wear a hat. But of course the producers overruled him, so what we have in this episode is a Patrick Stewart / Captain Picard / Dixon Hill wearing a hat, whether or not Captain Picard liked it or not. Okay, thanks for checking out my very good facts. Hopefully I'll drag up some more for you next time. Don't forget to subscribe if you want to, otherwise don't. But either way, thanks for watching. Take care. Thanks, guys.